Hey everybody, and Tony here with my final Mannheim review of Wagner's Lohengrin, which I saw at the Nationaltheater Mannheim. The conductor was Alexander Sodi, the production was done by Tilman Knabe, the sets were done by Johann Jörg, the costumes were done by Kati Maurer, the lights were handled by Bernard Heusermann, the dramaturgy was handled by Anselm Dalfert, and the chorus master was Danny Joris, and this was also performed uncut. I was really psyched about this particular production of Lohengrin because this was the first time I saw one of my most favorite high dramatic mezzo-sopranos of all time, Heike Wessels, sing the role of Ortrud. I have been wanting and waiting and willing to see her live on stage, and I finally got my wish. Yeah, I was supposed to see her as Kundry in Parsifal, but both days were sold out, which was kind of a shame, but at least I managed to see her as Ortrud. How she fared in this particular role, I will definitely talk about after I talk about the production. And this production of Lohengrin seems to transport the action from the Middle Ages Germany all the way up to the present time. Before the actual opera began, we see Lohengrin dressed in black with a tattoo being dragged in and kind of having the crap beat out of him by King Heinrich. That is until Elsa, who basically serves as King Heinrich's right-hand woman slash paramour, decides to clean him up and dress him up pretty well. And the entire action of this opera seems to take place in what looks like the Pentagon or something similar to the Hall of the United Nations, where a lot of the world leaders discuss about different topics. And what I notice about this set is that on the left-hand side, there is a broken down brick wall, pretty much to symbolize that despite the fact that they are in this particular faction where different world leaders, politicians, you name it, come over to discuss a lot of pressing matters, they are still at war with the outside forces. And what's also very interesting about this particular production is how Elsa is portrayed. Now, the common complaint about Elsa from Lohengrin is that she comes off as way too pure, way too nice, and almost too dependent on a man. Well, not this Elsa in this particular production. She's fiercely independent, quite strong to stand on her own 2 feet, and she's kind of manipulative in her own way. Not to mention, in one scene, she sort of has a Lady Macbeth moment where she has a vision of her stabbing her younger brother, Gottfried, to death. And she is constantly haunted by this vision despite appearing organized and strong. And this Elsa is not really pure in the slightest. She has an affair with King Henry the Fowler. She also has a little fling with the Herald before she marries Lohengrin. And I guess it's to say that the people behind this production just tried to find a way to deconstruct Elsa's character from what we've been usually familiar with. No longer is Elsa the pure and really sweet young maiden that we usually associate with. Elsa here is not really pure at all. She is independent, but she does have her few guilt-tripping Lady Macbeth moments. And the way she communicates with Ortrud is that it's constantly a power battle between these 2 women to see who is more capable, who is stronger, who is the one that can come out on top when all is said and done. And they are both political women, which I found really, really awesome and quite interesting, as it was able to give Elsa a lot more personality and a lot more backbone than what I've usually been accustomed to. And speaking of which, the ending to this entire production is kind of a downer, but at the same time, it was kind of shocking to see the Herald come out on top and rally the troops to kill everyone in the room. And before Lohengrin announces the people of Brabant that he will no longer fight with them, it's not just Telramund that was killed, but his 4 followers are assassinated by the security guards, thus making this kind of dark. And Ortrud doesn't end up defeated with a faint and a shriek, but rather she is lynched by almost everyone in the room before everyone else gets killed under the command of the herald and the gunmen that he commands. What makes this production stand out in its own special way is that it is filled to the brim with political intrigue, a lot of dirty politics being used, double standards being put into play, and just a lot of moral ambiguity from all sides of the border. There's not one character that's neither inherently good nor inherently evil. Everyone has a lot of ambiguity, whether it be the traditionally good characters of King Henry the Fowler and Lohengrin, to the nastier characters like Ortrud and Telramund, to the ones who are mainly on the side like the Herald. Everyone has a lot of moral ambiguity. And speaking of Lohengrin, I also like how they were able to still implement his outsider status, meaning that this is a gentleman who doesn't really understand what is the big deal with all of this intrigue, all of these dirty politics, all of these double standards when it comes to society. This is a gentleman who just constantly questions what is really going on when all the cameras are gone, when all the paparazzi would just vanish, and he's still trying to find out if there's still any type of morality in what is otherwise a crazy scenario. So I really do find this particular production of Lohengrin quite thought-provoking, but at the same time quite uncomfortable to watch and at times rather shocking. And I have to say that the costumes look rather nice on everyone. They fit all the characters very well, and there was just not one single moment where I felt like the costumes for certain characters just didn't really mesh well. So overall, this particular production of Lohengrin was quite exciting from beginning to end, filled to the brim with a lot of political intrigue, dirty politics, double standards, the complete invasion of the media, and it basically uses a lot of 21st century elements to tell an otherwise timeless tale. And I thought that the people behind this production did a very good job with the concept. Yes, it may not sit well with everybody, but as for me, I actually find it to be kind of enjoyable because I kind of liked how it was able to really shake me as an audience member, and it was just rather interesting to see this particular production just play up the political intrigue, the mind games, and even the double standards that all of these characters have, even though they may not come off as likable. I have to give a lot of kudos to the people behind this production for really making this come alive. Now we get to the singers. Starting off with our titular hero, Lohengrin, sung by the very superb spinto tenor, Daniel Johansson. And my word, does he have an amazing voice. First of all, it is a very fine spinto tenor voice. And the fact that this gentleman also started out singing some lyrical roles was quite a surprise because from what I've heard in his performance as Lohengrin, he had a pretty incisive voice. He had what the Italians would call squillo, which is the quality that is so associative with a lot of spinto tenors. And he had a very tall and handsome stage presence. I loved how he was able to make Lohengrin a not completely pure character, but a character who is just so curious as to why these things happen. Why is it that Elsa just can't even just do it with him, make love to him, and why does she constantly keep refusing him when he knows darn well that these two are married? And I really love how he was able to get into this character, finding out what makes him tick, finding out what makes him kind of question what society is. And he was just a very fine singing actor all throughout. And he sang with complete abandon. I definitely had a lot of fun just witnessing this tenor sing his heart out as Lohengrin. His musicality, his theatricality, and everything he did to make Lohengrin come alive as a character were all in complete evidence. So, Mr. Johansson, if you're watching this, bravo to you. I hope to see you in a lot more performances in the near future. His Elsa was sung by Ludmila Slepneva, who is a soprano mainly well known for singing a lot of the spinto to dramatic soprano repertoire, and even to some extent some of the full lyric soprano repertoire. I definitely love the quality of her voice. It's incisive, it has that really nice spinto / dramatic soprano quality, which manages to cut throughout the orchestra, and it has a very nice metallic sound, though there are times that she could be a little bit more lyrical in some areas, even though she did sing the absolute heck out of this role, which I could definitely give her credit for. But there were just some areas where I feel like she could have just toned it down a little bit. In my opinion, this is a voice that sounds a lot more suitable with singing roles like Zenta or Abigail or Lady Macbeth. Maybe she might end up singing these roles in the near future. Maybe she might have studied them, but I'm probably sure that in the future, these might definitely be her roles. As I stated before, Frau Slepneva has a very fine, incisive quality to her voice, which is quite associative with her predecessors Renata Tebaldi and Leonie Rizenek. She definitely knew how to take advantage of her voice, and she was able to play this really complex character really, really well. She was able to find certain moments where she can make Elsa just kind of lose it, but at the same time make sure that she keeps her own composure. And she was just really great as a singing actress all throughout. She was a strong performer, and she was a very fine musician, thanks to her incisive spinto / dramatic soprano voice. Then we go to Thomas Jazacko, who sang the role of Telramund. A few days ago, I saw him in the slightly comical role of Baron Mirkozetta from Franz Leha's Die Lustige Witwe, and here he was singing the role of Telramund. And what more can you say about Herr Jazacko when it comes to singing all of these nasty yet ambiguous characters? He was definitely a pro when it came to singing Telramund. He was able to find some human qualities that made Telramund tick, what made him react the way he did, and he was just a very fine singing actor. Sure, his voice may not be as completely expressive when it's compared to the likes of, let's say, Hermann Ude or Ferdinand Franz, but Herr Jazacko was a very fine Heldenbariton all throughout. He had a superb technique, and he was just a fine singing actor all throughout. And he was able to find some human moments of Telramund, thus making his characterization really well done. Then we go to the main reason why I wanted to see this particular production of Lohengrin, and that was to see Heike Wessels singing the role of Ortrud. I have followed this particular mezzo's career for quite some time. Ever since I was in my late teens, I was wondering, who was this really interesting mezzo who also sang this role at the Nationaltheater Mannheim, but even sang certain roles like Mercedes from Carmen, one of the maids from Elektra, and was a slowly growing dramatic mezzo. And that was when I kind of saw her career grow and grow and grow that I started to feel rather fascinated by how far Frau Wessels has gone in her career as an opera singer. She really blew me away as Ortrud. And my first experience with her was when I heard a couple of YouTube clips of her voice, whether it be singing Ortrud's Curse and Zweite Goethe, one of Ulrika's arias, Re del Aviso, and even Amour vient de ma faiblesse, though it was mostly a snippet of Ortrud's Curse and Zweite Goethe that I end up getting introduced to this particular high dramatic mezzo. And as her career flourished, she even started singing in some more Zwischenfach roles like Sieglinde from Die Walküre, Kundry from Parsifal, Venus from Tannhäuser, and she even sang the Siegfried Brünnhilde at that very opera house. And in the future, she stated that she's anticipating roles like Isolde, the three Brünnhildes from Walküre, Siegfried, and Götterdämmerung, and even that of the Fidelio Leonora. And from what I heard tonight, my word, was I completely blown away. She was very intelligent and meticulous in her execution of this role. She was able to time herself so well, and she was able to bring out a lot of venom, sarcasm, irony, and just a lot of things that made Ortrud all the more interesting than just glowering around the audiences and even making her kind of nasty and all that stuff. She was able to make Ortrud a calculating, smart, snarky, sarcastic, and a very capable, strong woman, which is something I really enjoyed from watching Frau Wessels really played this role wonderfully. I bought her as Ortrud. She pretty much made Thomas Jasako's Telramund look like a freaking midget when she was on stage. She was able to stand on her own 2 feet, tall and proud as she is, and she was a great force of nature. I was completely blown away by her renditions of Entweihte Goethe, Zurück Elsa, the scene where she interrupts Elsa before she enters the church, and of course, her final utterances of Varheim, Varheim, du stolzer Helde, before she ends up getting, in this version, lynched. So, if there's anything else I could say about Frau Heike Wessels as Ortrud, I have to say, brava. She definitely stole the show, and she stood tall and mighty in her own special way. And Frau Wessels, if you're watching this, you deserve the greatest kudos I can ever give to you. It was a major pleasure just witnessing you on stage and what you're capable of. And I personally can't wait to see you in Berlin. Maybe you might end up being at the Konzerthaus am Gendarmenmarkt, or even at the Berliner Philharmonie, or even the Deutsche Oper, Komische Oper, or even that of the Staatsoper im Schilltheater. I would really love to see you in all these opera houses. So I'm not going to mince words here. Heike Wessels was in excellent tip-top shape as Ortrud. She made her gloriously sarcastic and delightfully fun to watch in her own special way. Then we go to Thomas Berau, who sang the role of the Herald. I thought he was able to stand on his own 2 feet really well. He had a very handsome voice and equally handsome and fine stage presence, and he was able to make the best out of this particular character. He was able to really sing his lines very well. He was able to act this role really well, and he collaborated handsomely with all of his colleagues. We even get such superb singing from the likes of Valentin Anikin's fine bass baritone voice, David Lee's light lyric tenor voice, which is so supple to listen to, Philipp Alexander Mehr's plush baritone voice, and Raphael Wittmer's fine lyric tenor voice, as their voices blended spectacularly as the four nobles. And we even have the great pleasure of having Sibylle Boots, Claudia Kienzler, Brigitte Rakowitz and Susanne Scheffel really singing wonderfully and acting the roles of the noblewomen to Elsa quite well. They also stole the show in their own special ways, and they did a very fine job embodying all their roles. So overall, the singing was excellent in every single way, but in my opinion, this was the Heike Wessels show. She stole the show as Ortrud, and I was completely blessed to see this wonderful high dramatic mezzo live on stage. She really embodied her role to a T, and she was in excellent form from beginning to end. And the conducting done by Maestro Alexander Sadi was solid all around, though I kind of wish that he could have taken a little bit more time with the wedding march, because there were times it sounded rushed, and there were times that the chorus just couldn't really catch up in certain places, so he might need to double check on that in the near future. But other than that, I thought his conducting work was solid all around, and he made sure that the singers, chorus, and orchestra were in harmony, even though there were some areas that a little bit more collaboration would have been really necessary. So overall, this was definitely a great way to wrap up my Mannheim adventure with a very interesting production of Lohengrin, backed up by a superb cast headed by Heike Wessels. My Mannheim adventure definitely went out with a bang. And for those of you who saw this particular production of Lohengrin, what did you think of it? Did you love Heike Wessels as Ortrud? Was there another singer who also stole the show for you? Or did you feel like the singing could have been better and the production could have been less shocking? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. I'm surely going to miss Mannheim because my 10 days here have been quite great as far as everything else is concerned. Yes, I haven't really gone out so much as I should because there are definitely a lot of really wonderful places to witness here in Mannheim, most especially the rose gardens and all of these really wonderful places. So, to the people of Mannheim, ich wünsche euch allen ein schönes Osterfest und alles Liebe. And for the rest of you, my dear viewers, I also hope you had a great Easter holiday. Stay awesome as you are, and tune in next time when I'm back in Berlin for another few reviews. And most specifically, on Saturday is my review of Tchaikovsky's Eugene Onegin, live from the Metropolitan Opera House, starring Anna Netrebko as Tatiana and Peter Mate as Onegin. So until then, good night, everybody, and see you all in Berlin.